Today is the 29th day of the month of Tammuz. It is Erev Shabbos and Erev Rosh Chodesh, the last day of the month of Tammuz. Tomorrow we begin the month of Menachem Av, and it should bring a lot of Nechama to us and to the entirety of Klal Yisrael. We should be Zocha, please God, to much more Menachem than to Av. We are on Daf Daled Amud Aleph in Maseches Pesachim, and the Gemara is continuing with the discussion of speaking appropriately, speaking nicely. The Gemara tells a story of Rav. Now, the famous Amar Rav, the Gemara tells us, has an interesting familial relationship to Rabbi Chia. Says the Gemara, Rav bar Achua de Rabbi Chia ubar Achase. Rav was the son of the brother of Rabbi Chia and the son of the sister of Rabbi Chia. Now that does not mean that Rav's parents were brother and sister. Instead, what it means is that Rabbi Chia's parents had previous marriages. And in their previous marriages, his father had a son, and his mother had a daughter. And then when that son and that daughter, so that's where those are the older children. And then the Rabbi Chia's parents got married and had him, which means that Rav was twice the nephew of Rabbi Chia. His father was a half brother on the father's side, and the mother was a half sister on Rabbi Chia's mother's side, which means that he was a nephew doubly. Says the Gemara, Kisolek LaHasam, when Rav went to Eretz Yisrael, that's Hasam there, because the Talmud Bavli is, of course, in Bavel. So Kisolek LaHasam, when he went there, Amarle, Rabbi Chia says to him, Evu Kayam is Evu, that's your father, right? He says, Evu Kayam. So, says the Gemara, Amarle, he says to him, Ima Kayamas, you should ask me if my mother's alive. Meaning, don't ask me if my father's alive, ask me if my mother's alive. Amarle, Ima Kayamas, is your mother alive? Amarle, he says to him, Evu Kayam, you should ask me if my father's still alive. Meaning, when he asks about the mother, he says, no, you should really ask about the father. When he asks about the father, you should say, you should really ask me about the mother. Amr Lishame, so now Rabbi Chia gets the message. Amr Lishame, he says to his attendant, the guy that is with him, Cholitz li min alai. Take off my shoes, and then take my kelim, take my stuff to the Beis HaMerchas, to the bathhouse. What exactly is going on here? Says the Gemara, Shma mina tlas. We learn from this three separate things. We learn from the story. Shmaina, the first thing that we hear is Avel Asa b'nei Sasanda. What went on here is Rabbi Chia figured out that he was an Avel. He was an Avel because his half brother had died, and he was an Avel because his half sister had died. Meaning, and la'alacha, they have the din of brother and sister, and therefore he is now an Avel. So an Avel is also been in the sandal. An Avel is not allowed to wear their shoes. So he says to the shamish, take off my shoes. He says, and we also hear, the second thing that we learn is that with regards to a shmur rechaika, if a person hears about a relative that has died, but it's not something that has just happened, it's something that they found out about only now, but happened a while back. Meaning, it's not immediately after death and burial, it's months later. With regards to a distant piece of bad news, you don't sit a full week of Shiva, you only have to sit one day. That's Nehegas Yom Echad. And we hear from this, Miktas Hayam Kekula, the halacha that if you observe a part of the day, that's as if you have kept the entirety of the day with regards to Avelis. How do we know all of these things? We know these things because he says to the shamash, take off my shoes, meaning that he has to sit shiva, but it's not shiva; it's only one day, because he says to the shamash, take off my shoes and then take my stuff to the Beis HaMerchatz, meaning I'm going to sit shiva for an hour, then I'm going to take a bath to the Beis HaMerchatz. So I'm observing shiva, he says, but only for one day, and not even that whole day, just for a piece of that day. This is the halacha on the final day of shiva, that somebody that is sitting shiva bisman hazeh, that Rahman hears Shema Kurova, is bad news. They are there for the death and burial of a loved one, of a family member. So there's 6 days of shiva, beginning with the day of burial, and then the final day you just get up. You get up and you run off the shachris. That's the minhag, and that's the din. The truth is, it's not just the 7th day; it is also the first day. Meaning, if the levaya is late in the afternoon and there is an hour of sitting shiva before Shkia, so that Miktzah Sayom Kegula counts as the first day as well. So a person really can get away with more or less only 5 days of shiva, because the first and the last day Miktzah Sayom Kegula. So those are the 3 halachas that we learnt from Rabbi Chia in that context. Okay, the Gemara then tells us a little bit. We mentioned yesterday that the way that a person speaks is indicative of the neshama, of what's going on inside of them. So, how the Amar, a person says, Dunu Dini, person that has the habit of saying, I'm going to take you to Beis Din, right? Anytime that anybody has a fight about anything, he says, Dunu Dini, let's go to Beis Din about this. I mean, they say, Shema Mina Midan Kasi. We learn from this person, from the way that they speak, that they come from Shevet Dan. Dan Dan is gonna judge is gonna judge his nation like one of the tribes of the Jewish people, meaning somebody that is always interested in din. It sounds like they come from Shevet Dan. Not a bad thing, but it's a mitzvah. That's the reality. So how the have there's a guy that was going along and saying, Akif Yama Sisni Asisni or Sisani Birasa. Somebody that would walk around and say, this is the bushes that are by the sea are very beautiful. Or Asis Birasa is where I will build my palace. There's in the Rishonim, there's 2 ways of reading this. But either way, he's making a big deal about what's going on the seashore. Badku, so they checked after him, and they found out that he was really from Shevet Zvulun. Zvulun is going to dwell by the seashore. That's where he's gonna live. So a person that has this chesed, that's always talking about the sea. So Mistama, they come from Shevet Zvulun. Interesting that in the first story, the Gemara doesn't say that they checked or they found out that he was from Shevet Dan. Shema Mina. It sounds like, from what he says, this is from Shevet Dan. With the second guy, we're talking about an actual person. In the first one, it doesn't sound like it was a person. It's just there are people that talk like this. It means that they're probably from Shevet Dan. But the second one was like a specific person that kept walking around saying, like, I'm a big fan of the seashore. So they did some research into him, and they found out that he was from Shevet Zvulun. So now back to our question of Ar. That was the question that we had spoken about the whole of the first 2 dapim of this Masechta. So the kaimal and the chule alma are urtu. Now, once we've already established that the whole world agrees that Ar is urta, means nighttime, michti. Now we should try to figure this out. Ben Rabbi Yehuda, Ben Rabbi Meir. Both according to Rabbi Yehuda and according to Rabbi Meir. Chametz eina asar el mishesh shas ulmala. Both according to Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir, everybody agrees that on a level of deraisa, chametz is only asar from the 6th hour of the day and beyond. V'nivdak b'sheish. So why don't we check for chametz the 6th hour of the day? What do we mean by the 6th hour of the day? So on Erev Pesach, as we noted in our discussion about whether or not you can have a half the day with one halacha and a half the day with another halacha, the halacha is that the Torah tells us there are two isurim. We'll say it like this: there's an isur of owning chametz, and then there's an isur of eating chametz. And those isurim we know kick in on Leil HaSeder. You're not allowed to start Pesach with chametz, not allowed to eat it, and you're not allowed to own it. But the halacha is also that from the 6th hour of the day, meaning from chatzos, from midday, on a level of deraisa, and there's a machlokes in the Rishonim, whether there is an isur of eating or an isur of ownership as well. Either which way, there is an isur of chametz from the 6th hour of the day. You should not be having any chametz in your house from the from the 6th hour of the day and onwards. Why are we then checking 18 hours before that? By Orla Arbasa, why are we checking then? Why don't we just check around the time that it becomes awesome? Says the Rabbi Chitem, and if you want to say mitzvahs, is because we're going to act with alacrity. We're going to act with excitement to do the mitzvahs. So then check in the morning. Meaning, why are you checking the night before checking the morning? And we have a principle for this. That on the 8th day you have to do a bris milah. The 8th day of a baby's life, you do a bris milah, and this is a din de araisa. Shmini is a fil of Shabbos. If the 8th day falls out on Shabbos, you do it on Shabbos, and you do it right away, as soon as possible in the morning, not at night. This is V'tanya kala yom kol kashal milah. You can do the bris milah any time of the day. But people that have excitement for the mitzvahs are going to do it ASAP. Shenemar, as the pasuk tells us, V'yashkim Avram b'boker. Avram Avinu got up early in the morning. What is the context of this? Is Avram Avinu says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, you're going to go and shecht your son, right? You're going to take him to Eretz Maria, and Avram thinks it means he has to shecht the son. Terrible, insane. How could HaKadosh Baruch Hu say no? But Yashkim Avram Avinu gets up early in the morning. He's off to go, and we learn from this that once you have a mitzvah, you go off and you do it. That's the appropriate thing to do. So we have an obligation to check for chametz. Okay, Chachamim said you have to look for chametz. Good. So do it that day, early in the morning, first thing. We have to check for the chametz at the time that people are in their houses. The or haner yafel b'dika, and the or haner and the light of a candle functions well for b'dika, for searching the house. And the Gemara of Zayin is going to explain to us exactly what the shorish is in the psukim, in Navi, for why it is that we are looking for chametz or haner. But either which way, the Chachamim insisted that we check for chametz, but or haner, with the light of the candle, at a time that the candle will be helpful and people are going to be home. And you need both of those conditions, the Rishonim point out, because what happens if you are in a base ofel, if you are in a dark house, meaning there's an inner room that you have to go searching for chametz, so there's no daylight that's coming to that at all. So you still won't have the requirement of b'shah b'nei adam mitzvim avatim, that you need to have it that the light of the candle will be effective, meaning it's very dark, and therefore the light of the candle will be effective, and you need it to be at a time that's convenient because people are at home. So during the daytime, everybody's rushing around. At night, people are at home, and they will find the Or Haner as something effective. Amar Abaya explains as follows: Hilka chaytzum rabbanan lo liftach beitnei beurta d'teleisa denagi avesa. A person, the Talmid Chacham, should not begin a sugya, should not begin learning the night of the 13th as it turns to the 14th, meaning that gap between the 13th, that's becoming the 14th from Mina Mincha L'Mala, from Shkia certainly, and onwards. Discussion in the Pesachim. When exactly is the time period that you should not begin learning? Maybe he's going to be schlepped by his learning. In fact, hopefully he would be schlepped by his learning. He's going to be excited about learning. He's going to get stuck in the sugya, and it will prevent him from doing the mitzvah of bedikas chametz. Meaning, a person needs to be careful not to start something that is going to distract them from being able to do bedikas chametz, because maybe you could be pulled in the direction that you're gonna forget that you need to do bedikas chametz. Says the Gemara as follows: this, by the way, this next question is halacha lemaisa. We get asked this question kimat every single year. This is the Airbnb shaila. Somebody that rents a room, right? Rents a house to his friend, on the 14th. Al mi livdak. Who has to check? Ala maskir livdak. The chamira didehu. Does the owner of the house have to check the chamira didehu, because the chametz that there would be his chametz? Or dilma, or perhaps al hasaycha livdak. No, the person that is renting the house, he has to check the isura b'yushazekai, because the isur would be in his possession, meaning in his area. The first guy, meaning the owner of the house, it's his chametz, but he's not going to be there all of Pesach. The second guy, it's not his chametz, but he's the guy that's going to be there. Says the Gemara Tashma, we have a brisa that teaches us hamasi b'ayis lechaver, a person that rents a house to his friend, ala soicher la'asos mezuzah. The soicher is the one that is chayav to put up the mezuzah, meaning the person renting the house has to put up the mezuzah. We have a din like this. So somebody owns a house, a Jew owns a house, and another Jew is renting the house from him. Who's chayav in mezuzah? The renter. The renter is the guy that's chayav in mezuzah. Why? Because mezuzah is for a place that you are living. If you're living there, you're chayav in mezuzah. Says the Gemara, yeah, but what does that have to do with bedikas chametz? Hasam ha'amar Rav Misharshia, with regards to mezuzah, didn't Rav Misharshia teach us mezuzah chayvas hadarhi? Mezuzah is the obligation of the person that lives there. Meaning, it's not on the owner; it's a chiyuv on the person that is living there. This is important halacha l'maisa, because one of the things that we had to do at the beginning of camp, and it shows up every now and then throughout the summer, is somebody realizes, I don't have a mezuzah, so you got to put up a mezuzah. Who is obligated in putting up the mezuzah? So meikar din, if there's mezuzah, it's good, right? But who's obligated to make sure that there is mezuzah? The person that's living there. So whenever I go around and there's mezuzah to put up, so I say to the person whose bunk it is, whose cabin it is, I say, you should make the bracha. It's your mitzvah. It's your mitzvah. It's a chayvus hadar. I can make the bracha. I can put it in the mezuzah, but it's much better for you too, because it's a chayvus hadar. So mitzvah by Yosem Mishlucha, you should put it up, not me. So because it's your mitzvah, so it's better for you to do it than to make me your shlich to do it. Says the Gemara, but with regards to bedikas chametz, who says that it's a chayvus hadar? Achamai, with regards to the mitzvah of bedikas chametz, what's the halacha? Amar lahu Rav Nachman Yitzchak Tanena. Says Rav Nachman Yitzchak, we have a brisa that teaches us the halacha. Hamaskir b'ayis lechaver, with regards to a person that is renting a house to his friend, right? The person owns it, he's renting to his friend. If he has not yet given him the keys, and now, it's the 14th, then on the owner, the person that is going to be renting it out, he has to check. But if he has already given him the keys and then it becomes the 14th, meaning then the night of the 14th kicks in, then it is on the renter to check for chametz. Meaning, in whosever possession the house is in, when the night of the 14th comes about, that's the person that has to check. And this happens halacha l'maisa all the time for people that travel a day before Pesach to an Airbnb, or or they have people that are coming to stay in their apartment, to stay in their house, whatever the case is. Whoever is in possession of the house on the night of the 14th, that is the person that's chayav to check. So now we have a further question. This is all Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak sugis. He was apparently the mumcha. He was the expert when it came to the B'dikas Chametz questions. Says I'm asking by a person that rents out his house to his friend on the 14th. Cheskase badok or cheskase or in cheskase badok. Person that is renting out the house. So the tenant moves in, and it's now the 14th in the daytime, meaning the night of the 14th has already happened, and he moves in. This is now on the 14th, on the 14th of Nisan. Cheskase baduk, cheskase eno baduk. So this is now Erev Pesach, 14th of Nisan. Somebody shows up. Can he assume that the house is already checked for chametz? Cheskase baduk means the chazaka status quo is that it's checked. Meaning, did the guy that you rented the house from, did he check for chametz? This question comes up every year again. Rabbi, I just showed up at the Airbnb. The owner is Jewish, and it's Erev Pesach, and I want to know: do I need to look for chametz? Meaning, it's already Pesach is coming in 8 hours' time. Do I need to go look for chametz now? So he says, the Gemara says, what is the practical ramification? Meaning, knowing whether or not it was checked or not, like what can you assume about the halacha, about this house? Is it checked or is it not checked? So if you don't know, you should check it. So says the Gemara, what's the nafkamina l'shayle? Do you have to go and ask the guy, did you do b'dikas chametz? So l'shayle, so just ask him, and then you'll know. Pick up the phone, give the guy a call, and say, did you check for chametz? If he says yes, good. If he says no, then now you have to check. It's the middle of the day. You would end up having to check without a bracha. Says the Gemara, no, you don't know where he is. You can't find him. You don't have his number, right? So you can't find him. Do you now need to go drive yourself crazy to find him? Or can you assume that he checked it? He's a frum guy. He probably checked for chametz last night. Can you assume that? Do you have the right to assume it? So Amar lehu Rav Nachman Yitzchak says like this: Tani Tua, we have already explained it. Hakol ne'emanim al bir chametz. Everybody is believed with regards to, is trusted with regards to bir chametz, with regards to searching for the chametz. Afilu nahashim, afilu avadim, afilu ketanim. Whether it be women or slaves or children, people that in general are not people that would be able to testify in a Beis Din, but everybody is trusted to say that a house has been checked because chametz. So that's apparently the proof. Says the Gemara, my taima mehem. What is the reason that we are going to believe him? Lav mishum dechizkas baduk. Is it not because we already have an assumption that that the house is checked? The kasavar, because the assumption this is going on to daf dalal meis. The kasavar hakol chaverim. Everybody is considered to be a Talmud Chacham with regards to b'dikas chametz, meaning everybody cares about this mitzvah. And we're going to pick up from the proof for this, Matzah Shabbos. But apparently, the question of can you assume that the house is checked is somewhere or another, says Rav Nachman Yitzchak, based on the fact that there is ne'emanos, that there is that we can trust anybody, that they have done bir chametz, that they have destroyed the chametz. That's going to teach us something about the halacha, about b'dikas chametz, and then the Gemara is going to be It's going to challenge us on this assumption on Matzah Shabbos. Everybody should have a wonderful day, a beautiful Shabbos, and a beautiful Rosh Chodesh.